All right, what's going on? Let's get right into the card on this Monday, second day of January, and afternoon basketball, led by, of course, one of my favorite conferences, the Patriot League. That's why I refer to myself as the Patriot League governor, and I plan to govern that conference quite well today. So let's talk first about the first game that's at noon Eastern, Ryder and Niagara. Listen, when you look at Ryder's definitely a team that when you look at that road record, you got to look a little deeper because they've lost to some high power, quality Power Five teams. When you look at Niagara really didn't challenge themselves as much. And when they did challenge themselves, it didn't go very well. So there's probably the one game against Rutgers that I go back to and I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's the game, but I'm just not really understanding what's going on with this line right now. So first off, Ryder with freaking Dwight Murray Jr. is going to definitely penetrate the paint a lot. You got a lot of guys like Mervyn James and Alan Powell who are interchangeable and provide a lot of physicality and rebounding as well as the ability to score in a one-on-one situation. But when I look at Ryder, I do think that this is the time that they can really shine. They don't need to play a very deep freaking lineup. They brought in Alan Bertrand, who plays a similar style to the rest of their guards. And now I'm looking, and we've seen this line go from -1 in Niagara to -1.5 for Ryder. So I understand why the line is moving the way that it is right now. I think that what we saw against Canisius out of Ryder definitely leaves you with a little bit of freaking hypertension, I guess, just because this team is not they're not freaking winning by the kind of margin that you'd expect a team with this kind of continuity and experience can do. Now, I don't really think that they need to go deeper than the freaking main five guys that they roll out, but it's pretty hard to ignore that you haven't been getting a lot from the bench. And if you're not going to get some bench production, especially in conference, you got to play a rock fight style of game. And I just don't think that we really want to see that happen in this game for Ryder if they want to win. If you're Niagara, the lower scoring, the better, because this is not a clean offense. It hasn't been all year. It's had its moments and it's made some second half comebacks, but you need to definitely dial it back if you think that they're going to do what they did to Mount St. Mary to Ryder. That was a wire-to-wire win. That was a game that they did really good job of freaking making their free throws, getting on the offensive glass. And frankly, they've done it using a lot of different guys in a lot of different situations. I personally think that when you look at Niagara, if they're going to win this game, Sam Orio, Noah Thomason, David Mitchell are going to have big games. But you're going to need some bench production from a guy like Aaron Gray if he's coming off the bench, or Braxton Bayless. I think that Niagara is definitely going to put up a good fight in this game. I think that the better play is to take the under. I don't think that Niagara is going to let this game get into like the 65 to 70 possession range. And I just don't think that this game is going to see 131 points. So anywhere that you can get it right now, probably mostly 130.5. I would still take that on the under right now. And I lean towards Ryder, but the fact that the line is flipped is going to make me hold off and wait on it. All right, let's talk about Holy Cross and Navy. Now, this is a real good Patriot League game for Holy Cross because they're playing their best basketball of the season. Unfortunately, it just hasn't gone very well, aside from last year's 13-point upset victory against this Navy team at Navy. I think that in Annapolis, that's where Navy's going to play their best basketball. We're seeing the development of fucking Benjini. Not only is he a good freaking guard, he's also freaking doing a good job on the glass and avoiding some of this foul trouble. I don't really expect him to be a big time scorer this year for this team, but giving you some good freaking ball penetration, scoring buckets, some trips to the free throw line, and hitting your free throws, that's what he needs. And Austin Benigini is definitely a guy that's going to freaking make his name for Navy over the course of his career there. I think that when you look at Navy, it's important to note that this is a deep team. This is a team that can go 8 or 9 guys if they have to. But what you've seen from Sean Yoder and Tyler Nelson is what is going to have to carry Navy if they're going to be able to avoid the upset, get revenge for the upset last year, and cover this number. I think that you're going to get the best that you get from Navy. And when Navy's at their best, what are they doing? They're hitting 3-point shots. Last time out, I think they hit 7 threes in the first half. If you can do that again, then yeah, you're going to be much more of a stiff challenge than Bucknell was. Now, there's no doubting Holy Cross has been a very good underdog in this kind of point range, but I think that the more important aspect of betting this game is looking towards that under full game and looking towards the additional total under, because what do I usually talk about? Additional totals. This is one of the games that really qualify for it. When you look at Holy Cross's last, I guess, 7 games, 5 of those games have gone under off the closing number by 11 points or more. So I think that that is a game that you have value. And then when you look at Navy on the other side, I think 4 out of their last 6 games have gone over the number by I think it was 9.5 or 10. So I think that there's some value there. I think that when you look at Navy, you haven't seen them aside from one game against VMI in a point situation like this. And I think that with VMI, one of their offensive advantages against Navy is catch and shoot offense, which Navy just isn't that good at defending because they don't have the most athletic guys. I think that in this game, Holy Cross not really having a lot of those weapons are going to really present a different challenge. I think that the bigger challenge is keeping Jarrell Gates off the low block and out of high percentage scoring situations. And from an offense perspective, if you hit a bunch of threes, you can win this game and cover that number. So not my favorite play. I'll be on Navy full game. I'll be on the full game under. I'll be on a full game additional total under. And I would probably have to lean towards at least Holy Cross being competitive in the first half, because we have seen Navy play their best basketball, like most years, in the second half. So if you're looking for one play to make on this game, I would just wait till halftime and bet Navy. So I'm going to be on it a bunch of ways, but I love my Patriot League action. One thing that I will point out, Holy Cross, 64% of the free throw line. So not my favorite right there. All right, let's talk about Wright State and IUPUI, because I've read just now about a injury to Jalen Counter, and if he's doubtful for this game, this becomes a Wright State first half -8.5 spot instantly, and then I have to look towards taking them full game as well, along with the full game under. I think that IUPUI really struggles to score and get some offense going without Jalen Counter. And let's think about that. Jalen Counter in his last couple games eclipsed the 23-point mark in both of them and was the reason why IUPUI was competitive. Now you want to take that out. You're very dependent on Vincent Brady and the Gerard brothers to produce for you. And I just think that even against Wright State poor dribble drive defense, it's not going to matter. These guys miss very close, easy layups all the time. I think that a guy like Dalen Hamilton has the opportunity to step up for IUPUI without Counter in the lineup. I just worry that these guys can't make just simple open inside the arc jump shots and can't convert bunnies at the rim. So as bad as Wright State's defense is, I still think that if they want to go and score 80 points in this game, IUPUI is going to struggle to get to 50. So this could be a big rout. That's what I'm saying. So you put Jalen Counter in, I look at this game differently. But I just don't see even though the shots will be redistributed, who's going to be able to freaking knock them down like that? So, not really much else to say there. I think that with a player like Counter being out, it makes a big difference. All right. Let's talk about Boston U and Bucknell. Now, Bucknell looked terrible against Holy Cross. There's no doubting that. But this is a good situational spot to get back on them. I think that when you look at that game, Andre Screen was in foul trouble a lot. And when you take Screen out from a defensive perspective and then put Timmerman in, it's like freaking concrete and butter. So, as great as Timmerman's offensive numbers were in that game, he was a liability defensively, and I think that you're just going to get a much better overall performance from Bucknell today. Now, Boston U is one of the toughest teams to figure out in the Patriot League just because their experience, they have a ton of freaking chemistry and continuity. They have guys that have played in this conference now for 5 years, and they're playing this poorly. It just doesn't make sense because on paper, they should be challenging for the Patriot League championship. And in reality, they're a liability to bet on from game to game. Now, we've seen this line go from 2.5 down to 1. I think that it even went to pick 'em, and then it went back up to 1. Now, I will say that there is a Twitter capper that is on this play, and I feel very nervous every time that I'm on the same play as him. But I'm on Bucknell to win this basketball game. I do think that you get a better performance from your best guys for Bucknell being Xander Rice, Andre Screen, Edmonds, the Merrimack transfer. I just think that you got a really bad shooting game, and I'm not going to hold it against them in this one. Now, with Boston U, I think that what you want to see is their main guys getting going. But even in a game where Ethan Bertan Watts and Walter White combined for 32 points, they still weren't in it at any point. Navy put them down early. So maybe it's just Navy that Boston U just looks terrible every year against, but I'm just not buying it. You know, on the road, I can't remember a game that they actually looked good at. Maris looked terrible on the glass against them and made some pretty big mistakes down the stretch, which cost Boston U and got them the win. And then the game against Merrimack. Merrimack didn't have Jordan Minor in that game. Ziggy Reed was in foul trouble. I just don't buy it. So listen, Boston U is not as bad as a lot of people are saying, but I don't like them in this matchup against Bucknell. It may be an ass clencher. It may be close all the way through, but I like the full game under. I like the first half under, and I like Bucknell to win the game. So I'm not going to touch the first half spread. I'm just going to try and stick to the totals. I will say this, though. A lot of pink on these guys' game logs for games going under by margin. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a rock fight in this game, but I'd rather see a Bucknell rout in a game that stays under. All right, let's move it on. Okay, we'll go to my two favorite games in the Patriot League. This is going to be no surprise to anyone. American versus Loyola Maryland. Now, Loyola Maryland could not get off to a worse start possible against Colgate. That game was over before it began, and this has been a series that if you've been at home, you've really dominated. I think that this is a game where American has to prove that they are a true challenger for the Patriot League title, and getting Colin Smalls back, even though only being able to run him out in not major minutes, is still a good freaking win for this roster and for this roster's depth. I think that when you get Colin Smalls and Elijah Stevens both on the floor together, this is a very potent backcourt with capable scorers down low in Johnny O'Neal and Matt Rogers. I think that this is a game that American should be favored by double digits, and the fact that you can get them at 7.5 and 3.5 or 4 on the first half makes me think, well, what the fuck's going on? Loyola Maryland is healthy right now. They played one of the Illich brothers in the Colgate fucking blowout, and he looked good in that game. I think that when you look at Jalen Andrews and Kenneth Jones, these are the guys that got to lead you. You got a dominant big man in Alonzo Foray, who, if you throw it to him close enough to the bucket, he can score it off one dribble. I think that Loyola Maryland should be much better than what we're seeing, but there's no way that I want to take them at this number, even though a 7.5 and the game opening at 9 makes me think that Loyola Maryland is going to be more competitive and not get blown out. I think that this is a double-digit win. I'm going to ignore what the line is doing. I'm going to roll with American. I'm going to roll with American first half. I like the full game under. I don't really like Loyola Maryland at the free throw line. That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves with them. You know, they're just a team that gets so much dribble penetration with Dion Perry and fucking Isaiah Alexander that you think that they'd be able to convert more of their free throws. But look at the box scores of this team. See how many games that they've lost where those free throws have come back to haunt them. And if you miss free throws against American's not going to make that same mistake. So I just think that we're getting an American team that is still able to get better than what we're seeing. So for me, I'm going to put the game against Lafayette out of my mind, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at a common opponent. You know, I'm going to look at that VMI game and I'm going to be like, okay, you know, this was a game that they struggled. This was a game that they learned from. And I think that now you're going to see them be able to step it up that much more. I think that when you look at this American team, their free throw defense is good. The way that they freaking box out and do a good job defensive rebounding, that's very good. And at the end of the day, you know, they're going to give up some threes, but they're not going to be open, uncontested threes. And that's what you need. You don't want to see a team, which there are a lot of in college basketball, who give up on 3-point shooters and just assume that they're going to hit it or assume they're going to miss. If you don't close out on jump shooters at this level, guys are there because they can hit open shots. So we'll see what happens. I think that this is a really good game for American to prove to all of us bettors that they're worth our money at these types of spreads. All right, let's move it on to Colgate and Lehigh. Now, this is a scary game because the total opened at 154. We're seeing it 153 right now. This is one of those 150 conference unders. But how can I really take an under right now with Colgate involved? Now, obviously, Colgate did not look very good in the non-conference. There were a bunch of games that I thought that they were only competitive for 20 minutes. But this is a game where I think that Colgate can still win this game by 15 or more points. As far as the total, you know, that's where I'm having my struggles. I want to take a first half over with Colgate. I've learned my lessons with first half unders with them. I think that that's probably the best play out of the game, to take that first half over 72 or 72.5. But I think Colgate wins this game very comfortably. I think that they are at a different level compared to what you're going to see from Lehigh. I thought Lehigh would be way more improved than they are, but they really aren't. And even though Colgate's coming off putting up 100 points, I think it's something that when you look at the box score, you see where those points came from, and you're like, okay, well, friggin', I think that this is something that a couple other guys can step up and lead the scoring next time out. That's what Colgate has. A bunch of catch and shoot 3-point shooters, along with some big men in Keegan Rickards and Jeff Woodward, who can score in the low block, and Tucker Richardson, who can score from all three levels. You know, the way that this team shares the basketball is going to be key. When they can rack up 20 plus assists in a game, they are very good to the spread, and they're very good to their backers. With Olivier Lynch-Daniels coming off a 6 for 7 3-point shooting performance, I don't expect that again. But when you can get points off the bench, and I'm talking double digits from Chris Baker, like, that's a big deal to me. I think that at the end of the day, um, there's a lot of guys in this system, in Matt Langle's system, that are going to develop before our very eyes. And looking at Chandler Baker and freaking, what the fuck's that kid's name? Braden Smith. These are guys that are going to be the next core for Colgate. So I think that Colgate is even more dangerous in this situation. I think that when you see them anywhere under 15 points, you have to consider them. And with this line opening up at 9 and now up to 11, I still like it. So Colgate first half, Colgate full game, and Colgate first half over. Those are my favorite spots in it. All right, let's talk about Canisius and Mount St. Mary. Now, listen, Canisius obviously was supposed to play a home game against Ryder, and they had to postpone that because of some snow. I think that this is a Canisius team that I like when they're at home. They've always played better at home. This is an experienced Canisius team, but definitely a new one that we're not used to seeing from last year. Obviously, Jordan Henderson has got to be the key for them on offense, the consistency, the late games shot maker. But when you look at Xavier Long and Jameer Moultrie, what they can do respectively from inside the arc and from the 3-point line, that's where your offense is really going to freaking lie. I think that having a guy like Jaco Fritz with his experience, being able to come off the bench and still give you some good production is going to be key for them. I think that not having Toronto, Ontario's Frank Mitchell, the Humber College transfer in the lineup hurts them depth-wise up front, but there's more bodies that they can go to if they need it. I think that this is a Canisius team that in this game is going to be able to win against a Mount St. Mary team that, from my perspective, just has not adapted to the Metro Atlantic quality of competition early in the conference season. Now, there's no doubting that Jalen Benjamin is a very quality piece, but it's outside of that that I start to worry about where you're going to get your offense from. Now, obviously, with Dakota LeFew and Malik Jefferson, these guys have been experienced in the system, but you brought in George Tinsley, and he's not really giving you that double-digit scoring and close to 10 rebounds that you thought that he'd be able to do when he transferred down. And then when you look at a guy like Xavier Lipscomb, he's able to give you a lot more offensively, but he's not really being trusted by Coach Ingolstadt to get those minutes. I think that he's a guy that can really stand out in a game for you. And then on the other side for Mount St. Mary, we thought that Jalen Gibson was going to be a big-time player this year, but he suffered through a major shooting slump. It's affected his minutes, and I just don't see the support that Jalen Benjamin needs to be able to win this game and cover this type of numbers. So I like Canisius. We've seen the line go from 2 to 3 now. I think it's going to be a close game, but you're not going to find me on Mount St. Mary. I just don't like how they close out in the second half, even though they have such good free throw shooters. So move on from there. All right. We're going to get into a couple SWAC games. Listen, for the SWAC, I don't really have that much. I think that for this Jackson State Alcorn game, I think that it could be a little closer than the lines indicating. But for me, I don't really have anything on that game, so I'm just going to move on from it. Alabama State and Mississippi Valley State, that's a real interesting game to me just because Mississippi Valley State has been a lot better, but both of these teams, ATS records have mainly been against upper tier competition. So I think that when I look at Mississippi Valley State, they had an outright win against Alabama State last year as an 11.5 point 11.5 point underdog. I do think that that's where I probably lean towards. I think that the games that Alabama State has played at home versus Mississippi Valley State have been Mississippi Valley State covers. And even though this number is lower than any of the last three home games that they played, I'm still willing to take a shot with Mississippi Valley State because I like what I'm seeing from Terry Collins. But most importantly, I like what I'm seeing from Waquan Brown. And having somebody who can shoot that consistently inside the arc, and a guy that's just back into the lineup, I think he's played 4 or 5 games, is what this Mississippi Valley State team needed. They needed that second score. I think that with Raekwon Brown, you have it. Now, the question is going to be, can they stay and keep a game close? Well, against freaking, who was it? I think it was North Alabama. North Alabama, they were what? I think they were a 10-point dog and they only lost the game by 8. So from that perspective, we have seen Mississippi Valley State be able to make enough threes in that late part of the second half to keep a number close. But on the other side, I really haven't seen Alabama State in a situation from a spread perspective where they've been a big favorite like this. Now, on paper, you can make a case for both sides. I just rather take the dog here because Mississippi Valley State has gotten that extra boost offensively with a player becoming eligible and being able to use him. So if Mississippi Valley State can avoid missing free throws, going 2 for 9 or 2 for 10 early from the 3-point line early in the game, getting destroyed on the freaking defensive glass, then they have a chance. But this easily could blow up in my face. Not the best game to tail me on, if anything, but I'm going to roll with Mississippi Valley State, and I'm going to take the 8.5, and I'm going to look at them also first half plus 4.5 or plus 5. Yeah, I'm a vampire. I do like American also, like you do. Yeah, I think that the analytics definitely like the under in the Purdue game, but I'm just not so sure. I think that we've seen Rutgers really try and score, even though they haven't been that successful doing so. And against this young backcourt for Purdue, I do worry about them and how they do against this kind of defensive pressure that Rutgers is going to play against them. So you could be onto something. I jumped on the over 129 yesterday. So we'll see what happens. No, I don't dance. I just lean. Or say excuse me when I'm trying to get by. All right. Let's talk about. Okay, we'll talk about Eastern Kentucky and Kennesaw State. Now, this is the Eastern Kentucky team that by scheme and style, they should be able to really run it up, but it really hasn't suited them or been something that they've tried to do. I think that's mainly because of what they have scoring wise in the backcourt. It doesn't suit them to play a very high up tempo game because guys like Delano Blanton and Michael Moreno are going to be leading you scoring. You don't have that Jamaro Brown that you had last year. You don't have that Wendell Green that you had a couple years ago. So I think that this Eastern Kentucky team that's going to try and slow the game down. I just think that it's better value in their games when you're getting a total that's 150 or less. So I think that there is a little value on the over, even though the numbers move from 142 to 145. That could definitely hold a lot of people off, and I wouldn't blame them. But I do think that Kennesaw is going to have a little more success scoring the basketball, breaking the press of Eastern Kentucky. When I look at Kennesaw, obviously, when you look at their scoring, when you look at their interchangeableness, when it comes to their wing and backcourt players, when it comes to the experience and how well they're coached, it makes you definitely like Kennesaw. I think that it's a good spot to wait on the full game, but get on Kennesaw early because they're going to show you in the first 20 minutes if they're up for it. Coming off a game where they had to come back and where they really weren't in control, I do think that we see a more assertive effort from them and a more, I would say, a better offensive performance from freaking guys like Hassan Jennings. Um, Obviously, with Brandon Stroud and Chris Youngblood, they have those two guys that have been high school teammates and been playing basketball together since they were like 12 years old. So you have good continuity there. That obviously helps on home court. But I just don't see Eastern Kentucky really being able to give Kennesaw any problems, even with their size and scoring down low. Kennesaw can freaking press. Kennesaw can zone you up in multiple different ways. And I just think that we're going to see them play better basketball against this Eastern Kentucky defense than a lot of other opponents. Now, Eastern Kentucky, there's no doubting, they're on a little win streak. They beat up on some teams that you probably I know that I bet against them in. I bet against them in the Greensboro game and the Queens game. But I'm betting against them again tonight. I'm fucking taking Kennesaw State first half. I'm taking the full game over. And I think that Kennesaw definitely rises to the occasion against this conference foe. They're definitely a live dog when it comes to the ASUN Conference Championship. And the one thing that definitely holds me back from taking them full game is just their free throw shooting. It's really brutal. It makes it hard for them to protect leads when a team's trying to extend and they can't hit more than 60% of their free throws. The other thing is Eastern Kentucky's no better. So this is a tough game to bet full game because of that. But free throws don't affect first halves. So I'm definitely liking Kennesaw first half more than anything. All right. I will say this. Eastern Kentucky can out-rebound teams, but it does not mean that they're going to be able to win that basketball game because of it. Not my favorite team to bet on the road either. All right. Let me find where I was. Oh, yeah, Bellarmine in North Alabama. Now, I think that North Alabama is now a live dog. What's that number at right now? They're just at +1.5. I think they're a live dog right here. I like North Alabama. I like their style. I like the fact that they do a good job on the glass. They're a 70-plus point per game team, and they do a good job of defending the rim, which is obviously key. Now, one thing I will say about North Alabama is you're not going to be able to ball pressure them into a lot of turnovers. And they're also playing some very good basketball right now outside of their game against Colorado. I think that this is a bet-on team right now. Throw them at home, and they are very dangerous from the three-point line. With KJ Johnson and Daniel Ortiz, you have some very dangerous guys. And then a guy like Bryson Dawkins, when you can get him in the lineup and get him playing some meaningful minutes, is a guy that can stand out and be that X factor. I like this. I like this North Alabama team. I like how they move the ball inside and out. I like how they freaking swing it and they look for that open shot instead of freaking forcing the offense. And then I like their ability of their main guards to be able to slash and get to the rim. So this is a spot where I do have a little bit of concern about free throw shooting down the fucking road in the second half. But I think that from a defensive standpoint, you're not going to be able to fucking go blistering and score into the 80s. You may hit 70 against them, but this is still a team that I think has a lot of potential and a lot of growth still for us to see. Now, obviously, Bellarmine wants to play a defensive style in this game. They want to freaking really take away a lot of your transition opportunities. They want to work the ball, work the clock. You're not going to be able to turn them over in the half court a lot, but they're just playing a style that doesn't allow for a lot of freaking wiggle room. If they can't get that slow down, rock fight style of game where they're freaking able to hit those jump shots after using 22 to 24 seconds on the shot clock, they're in trouble. We've seen them be in trouble doing and playing like that the last couple games, and I don't expect it to change against this North Alabama team. Now, there's no fucking denying that Garrett Tipton is the key dog for this team. When he's on, that's when they're at their best. But I think that when you look at a guy like Bash Whelan, who from what I've seen, is definitely freaking pretty missed in this lineup. You just haven't had a guy step up and freaking take over that fucking role. Now, I look at a guy like Justin Betts and I'm like, well, I've seen fucking shades of this guy fucking breaking out, but then I see this guy disappear for games on end. I'm not willing to back this Bellarmine team on the road in conference when I can't really rely on certain guys stepping up and providing that complementary scoring that Garrett Tipton needs in order to fucking lead this team. Someone's got to lead this team offensively. Tipton's the one that's fucking opened his eyes and is like, listen, I'm going to take care of business. So guard him from all three levels. Keep him off the free throw line, but keep him off that mid-range jumper. That's what he's going to. He's handling the ball a lot more, so you can force him into a bunch of turnovers. And frankly, I just have not done well betting this Bellarmine team as a favorite. I don't think that this is a situational spot. I don't think that the number favors them. If you want to hold out and see if you can get 2 or get 2.5, that's fine. I think North Alabama wins the game. I'll take plus 1.5 right now. So I'm all about North Alabama today. All right, Penn and Brown. Now, I think that this is an interesting game for Brown because Brown could potentially look very good in this game. When you're coming off a game against Northwestern that you play with your fucking heart on your fucking sleeve, I think that that's something that you can actually carry over, especially going up against a conference foe who has really whooped your ass for, I don't even know, the last fucking 5 years. I think that Brown definitely is in a situation where they're not going to have a letdown coming off a very physical game. I think that they're going to be able to be more successful offensively because of how physical and how big Northwestern was. And when you watch that game and you look at Wojciech and you look at Keno Lilly, you're just like, wow, these guys are looking way smaller than any of the guys that Northwestern's running out there. Now you're going up against definitely a different fucking kind of animal, but definitely an animal you got to be aware of. Penn is obviously getting Jordan Dingle back. I think that they got freaking, what the hell is that kid's name? Slidegert, Zach Slidegert, I think his name is. He's going to be back tonight for them. They just played a non-D1 opponent, so I'm not really taking much from that, aside from the fact that they were able to freaking score 40 points plus in both halves. So having Slager back in, Cody Slager, that's his name, Max Martz, fucking, and obviously Jordan Dingle is the key for this team. If you don't have one of those three guys, I think that you actually start to handicap Penn a lot differently. But outside of their games against the Power 5 teams, they against the Philly 4 teams, whatever, Philly 5, whatever it is. Sorry, I'm getting a little mixed up there. They've been pretty impressive. So I think that at the end of the day, this is a Brown team that is one way of playing them. When you see a 136.5 total, it makes and screams under to me because all of the last 10 games that Brown has played have gone under. And when I'm talking unders, I'm talking serious unders. Like, I'm talking unders as low as 5.5 points off the closing line to as much as 24. So when you can play those types of unders, really the side is I don't know, it's chopped liver to me. So I think that the way to play it is under 136.5. Hit the additional total for fucking, I would say 4 and 8 points. And then put a little something on Brown to win the game. I don't think that Penn's going into their building 2 years in a row and winning it. I think that Brown, from the reasons that I gave earlier, are in a good position to just be more comfortable and freaking confident playing against this Penn team that isn't as physical, isn't as big, and doesn't have as good defense. But the unders full game, first half, yeah, I like those a lot. 64, that's a good number for an under. So we'll see what happens, but I'm liking a lot of Brown unders. All right, let's have a look here. Brown, yeah, a lot of Brown unders. All pink for me over there. That's the type of game that pays off a lady of the night. All right, let's move on to some of the 7 o'clock games that. Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of interesting ones. All right, let's talk about Jacksonville and Jacksonville State. This is a game where I think that Jacksonville, as a fucking favorite, is definitely something that I'm a little hesitant to get on. I think that when you look at how they freaking blew that lead against Florida Gulf Coast, it's like, wow, how the hell do you come back from that game? And just because these teams are both named Jacksonville does not mean they're in the same state. They're actually in different states. So I would say pause the fucking geographical rivalry because there is none. I think that Jacksonville is the better coach team. I think that when you look at their coaching, they've won a lot of basketball games and they've done it playing very good defense. I expect Jacksonville to want to make this as ugly as possible after losing like they did to Florida Gulf Coast. I think that Jacksonville plays a game that's under basketball. I'm not as interested in a 59 on the first half as I am in the 126.5 full game. And from a spread perspective, I'm looking at Jacksonville State as the spot to get on. I think that my biggest problem is Damari King and Skylar Potter going to be able to shoot efficiently enough to freaking be able to rack up the points that you need to keep this game close. Sometimes they can get a little freaking unorthodox with some of the shots that they put up and use a lot of shot clock to get them. And then when I look at Jacksonville, with Osifo and Dylan O'Hearn, my fellow Canadian, and Jordan Davis and Kevion Nolan, these guys can freaking put up some freaking threes. These guys can freaking work the ball inside, good interior passing, good hands on all three of them. They can really cause some matchup disadvantages for Jacksonville State. It's not like Jacksonville State has a ton of depth that they can go to. A lot of these games over the especially last year, both of them were under games. Both of them stayed under by freaking 5 and 21 points. And Jacksonville State doesn't have the quality that they had in that game. We're talking about a Jacksonville State team that had Darian Adams, Jalen Gibbs, Kane Henry, Jalen Finch, Brandon Huffman. Those are some serious fucking scorers at the collegiate level. Well, none of those guys are there anymore. And Kevion Nolan was very comfortable shooting threes against Jacksonville State's defense. Marsh and Osifo were there. There's a lot of familiarity with this Jacksonville team that they probably end up winning this game. I'm just not interested in taking them at 5.5 right now. If I saw 4 or 4.5, then yes. At the spread right now, I like Jacksonville State, but I'm not betting it. I'd rather just stay on the full game under and use Jacksonville in a money line parlay with someone else, like Colgate. Because Jacksonville, I don't think they're losing this game outright at home. It's just something that they haven't done. And coming off a game against one of the conference bests in Florida Gulf Coast, who's led by Pat Chambers, the coach who will fucking bang any BBW in the bar, and that's before having one of his first 12 drinks. The man's an animal. Pat Chambers. He's a fucking animal. I love him. but I don't want to bang the same bitches that he is. So, all right. Outside of that, yeah, I like Jacksonville to win in the full game under. That's about it there. Let's move it along. We'll talk about how about Lipscomb and Liberty next? For me, this is a bit of a biased spot because I'm a big Liberty guy. I like the way that Richie McKay coaches this team. I like the pack line defense. I just worry about what they're going to do offensively versus this hard to handle front court for Lipscomb with Ognisevich and fucking Asadula. I just think that these guys are really pack line killers. And the way that Will Pruitt has taken it upon himself to try and score the basketball with drives to the rim and just using screen after screen to get free, I do think that this is going to be a tough game for Liberty to cover the points. But like I said, I'm a bit biased towards Liberty, so I'm on Liberty. I took them full game. I think that this is a game that very easily can go over first half and stay under full game. That's been Lipscomb's pattern, at least from games that I've watched and bet on them. And at the end of the day, Liberty goes as far as Darius McGee takes them. Now, if you can get a 20-point effort out of a guy like Kyle Rode or Shiloh Robinson or Joseph Benzon, then that's great. But I look at Pebbles coming off the bench. He's the guy that you need to be able to produce. There's a lot of guys that you need on a regular basis to produce, and you don't know what's going to happen. I think that once the conference season starts, you start to see the best of Liberty, and I think that you're going to see a shorter rotation, and you're going to see a team that definitely plays some better basketball. There were some times that you really question the 3-point defense of this team, but that's not really what I'm worried about in this situation. This is a Liberty team that regularly can get to 75 points. They hide how bad they are on the glass with a good assist to turnover ratio. And even though they don't protect the rim that well, they bring a lot of good help defense, and they're able to get back in position and close out. From an offensive perspective, there's nothing not to like about them. They're good on the glass. They're good at the free throw line. They're fucking top 5 in the nation in 3-point shooting. And you know what? They're just under 50% from the field. I think that at home is when they're at their best. And I think that we're going to see it tonight. I think that if you can get some good production when you need to go to Isaiah Warfield or Jonathan Jackson or Blake Preston, I think that's just fucking icing on the cake. So I'm rolling with Liberty. I don't like this Lipscomb team in general. I don't like how they play fucking only 20 minutes of basketball and don't play full games. And I'm going to put my money where my mouth is on it. So as far as the total, I do lean towards the under because of Lipscomb's lack of 40-minute effort. But every time that they've posted a line in this range, Liberty has definitely risen to the occasion and helped it get close to getting over. It's when you see them in the 120s and the 130s that you have to really consider them for unders, not in a line that's at the 140s. So that's a spot that I'm having a little trouble deciding what to do on. But I know that I'm just going to roll with Liberty full game at least. All right, let's talk about Lafayette and Army. Now, simply put, Lafayette, I don't even know if I would make them a favorite in this game. I lined Army as a 3.5-point favorite. So I'm pretty good taking them plus 1.5. I got them at 2.5. I think that they win the game outright. So I think that the next play to make is on the money line. I think that Army wins this game. I think Army wins this game wire to wire. I'm just impressed with what this Army team has been able to do, even though that they blew a 21-point lead against Lehigh. Jalen Rucker hasn't had to do everything. He's had some good fucking production. He's gotten some good production from Chris Mann and Charlie Peterson and freaking TJ Small. And I'd say that probably the guy that needs to step up and play the best beside him is the guy that you just got 23 points from in your last game, in Ethan Roberts. With this kid being a fucking true freshman, being able to hit the way that he hits, and he's a 75% free throw shooter, this is the second scorer that Army needs to propel them through conference season. And if Ethan Roberts and Jalen Rucker are both on in the same game, I don't see Army losing. So this is one of the games that I would be happy to fucking combine on a money line parlay, take Army, take Jacksonville, and fucking run that up. Army does just enough at the free throw line to keep me content. They're a solid 3-point shooting team. They're a solid dribble drive to the rim team. You know, they're going to get a lot of back to the basket fucking scoring opportunities with their size that they have up front. And from a defensive standpoint, you know, they're not going to win any awards, but they're not going to fucking put me in an early grave. I like what this Army team can do. I like the versatility of their scoring. I think that they have a game changer in Ethan Roberts. And you know what? They're just solid 1 through freaking 7. So I like what this team's doing. I think that this is a game that's very winnable for them. Now, Lafayette is definitely a team that we've seen have some very nice games, but the consistency has not been there, you know? Coming off a 25-point win on the road against LaSalle, and then you freaking open the conference season the way that you did in the first half versus American. That's just not a sound investment if you want to look at sports betting from an investment standpoint. So I'm not going to invest in them. They're not a solid free throw shooting team. They're not solid from any of the three levels. They're going to get beat on the offensive glass. They're going to get taken advantage of on the defensive glass. You know, you're going to be able to shoot where you want, when you want. I just don't like this version of the Leopards. So even though CJ Fulton is quality, even though Leo Boyle is transferring but still playing, Kyle Jenkins has to lead this team offensively with his smooth 3-point stroke. And if you can close out and fucking alter that, I just don't see Lafayette being able to string enough baskets together to be able to fucking beat you. Plus, you know that they want to play a slow tempo game because they're not running a lot of guys out there. You know, you may see 8 guys, but they're not playing all meaningful minutes. They're playing fucking sub minutes to give the guy 2 minutes of rest and then get him back in the game. That's not something that's going to do you well against Army, especially because Army will just speed themselves up. So, whatever, it is what it is. I'm rolling with Army. I like them. I'm confident in them. And I don't give a shit that Lafayette's 2-12. I care that they're 0-1 in conference. All right. The Rider Niagara game has started, and it's looking I guess that I've been muted for a while. My mic lost connection, so I guess that's pretty funny. Oh man, I don't even know where you guys left off. Fuck. Where's my bong? I need a bonk it after that. Man, I was saying such good shit, and now it's done. I'm not gonna fucking repeat it. Oh, that's funny. Power of strobing light. But if there's a game that you wanted to talk about that I didn't talk about, just throw it in the chat there. I'm gonna sit here for a couple minutes. I gotta get this fucking Niagara game on. Where's my remote? No more Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I gotta fucking get off the nerd shit. Where are you? Oh, there's World Junior Hockey on. Fuck. I didn't realize that. Where are you? I thought it's on ESPN Plus. I don't know where it is. Fuck. Wouldn't be on ESPNU at this time, would it? I don't even know where the Niagara game is. But it's fucking 14-10 Niagara. 24 points in 10:56. That's not bad. I love mess-free bacon. It's great. It's called fucking use an air fryer. What channel is this game on? I think it's on ESPN Plus. I don't know why it's not showing on my IPTV then. Yeah, it's on ESPN Plus. Yeah, whatever. All right, let's see what else is on. Keep on forgetting what day it is. Oh shit! Replay of the Pepperdine Gonzaga game. I'll watch that. I love replays of games because you can also fast forward them. I don't know if I can watch Golf Life though. Yeah. It's on A&T Sports. No. Southwest. All right. So let's see what it is. The keys for Ryder. Make him earn it. Defend the three. Smart defensively. Oh, Thomason. That's who's number 21. That's a pretty bad run for fucking Niagara. They definitely gave up some threes. I mean, bad for Ryder. As long as the unders are on fucking pace, I don't really give a shit. Oh, let's have a looky here. Even on What's Up? Shut up, you fucking cocksucker. Man, I need to do some shit on fucking pizza. Yeah, the place is called Pizza, and they sell pizza. But if you go to different places, they don't sell the same pizza. Doesn't look the same, doesn't taste the same. Yep, I got to bring awareness to that shit. I got to bring straight awareness. All right, let's go. Let's go, Ryder. You fucking cucks. Get in the game. Fuck with your eyes open. Stop closing them. Yeah. Fuck, man. I do not fucking agree with any of these analytic motherfuckers. Army is gonna win. Army is gonna win. Let's go, Bucknell. All right. Yeah, Eastern Kentucky was never a 5-point favorite. They're a 5-point dog. I'm an animal. Pat fucking Chambers. What a fucking guy, bro. What a guy. That guy will have sex with any BBW in the world, and he'll do it sober. He's a real man's man. I hope to be like him one day. But for skinny bitches. Any skinny bitch around, I'll bang them out. I'll put a fucking good thump into them all, you know. You know, you know. Now you know, you know. All right. Keep it ugly, keep it under. I like unders. I don't mind. I like strobing lights also. I'm experimenting with this one. I'm going to have to get a couple more, though. I like to be extreme. I like the strobe part. Has a whole bunch of stupid fucking things. Oh. All right. American, yeah, that line's too short. American's going to fuck with their eyes open. Stetson, line's too short. I don't know where the North Florida money is coming from, but Jarius Hicklin and Cartier Hendrickson, yeah, they're not doing it, bro. They're not doing it. Stetson, they can beat you defensively hard. That's what they're going to do. Wright State, yeah. No Jalen Counter, I like that. All right, well, that's about it. I see others. I like Eastern Kentucky. Yeah, no, I don't like Eastern Kentucky. I want to take Prairie View, but something's holding me back. And the Alcorn game against Jackson State. I got to look more into these SWAC games. All right. I'm going to go fucking strobe on. Let me have a look here one more time. Okay. If I were to have two favorite spreads, my favorite spreads would be Colgate and American. If I were to say I had a favorite total, I would say my favorite total. Wright State IUPUI under. That's probably my favorite total, especially with Jalen Counter not in the game. My second favorite under would be Boston U and Bucknell. My favorite over would be. I'm trying to find one that I actually like a lot. Eastern Kentucky game moves so much. I don't think that I have a favorite over on this game on this board. I think I really like unders. The only over that I probably like that I can say right now without looking at more stats is fucking Liberty, Lipscomb, and then Brown and Penn. For some reason, I think that game's going to have more offense than the line's indicating. No, I don't like Brown and Penn. No, that's a pure under game. That's a lie. I stopped myself. No. Liberty would be the one. See, I'm trying to find by looking at my fucking numbers, and I'm just forgetting that Brown has gone under in their last 10 games, all under by 5.5 points or more. So, yeah, no overs there. I hit a first half over on Brown last time out and then lost the full game by 2 points. I'm not making that mistake again. All right. I'm saying goodbye for the fucking 13th time. And that's me doing it. For real. As long as I can fucking click the button. Where is it? There it is.